Now, something that might prompt a discussion about pensions is some of the speculation we're starting to see ahead of the budget on the 3rd of March. And there's always loads of speculation ahead of the budget. I think more so this time round because there's a general fear that Rishi Sunak's going to hike up taxes to start paying back all of this borrowing he's had to take out to pay for pandemic relief. The Express, in their typical faction, have talked about fears of a direct attack on pensioners. And I guess this direct attack comes in two forms. It's all speculation, I have to say, at this stage. We don't know what Rishi Sunak's going to announce in the budget. But one fear is that eventually he will switch from the current system of pensions tax relief, which is based on your highest rate of income tax, to a flat rate of tax relief. So for higher rate taxpayers, that could mean they miss out on some tax relief on money going into the pension. And then the other side of it is for people who are already in retirement, who have already started claiming their state pension, whether they will have to start paying national insurance contributions on that income. Because as it stands, once you reach state pension age, you no longer pay national insurance contributions. And that could raise an awful lot of money if he does that. And it feels like a fair way of tax. And all tax is unfair, but it feels like a fair way of taxing people because it's based on their income. So people who earn more from their pensions will pay more tax. Do you think that's a fair approach towards it? Do you think older people should be paying more back towards the national debts as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think old people need to sort of old people. Older people, I think it's fair to say, do need to pay their fair share. And there has been reports from think tanks and things like that that have said things like the triple lock, for instance, should be changed from
Yeah.
a triple lock to a double lock because it's a fairer system and it means that people that are older helping to shoulder the burden that we know is going to fall on working people like ourselves and those that are still in school. I mean, we're going to be paying this for a very, very long time. Um, I find it hard to express exactly as I feel because pension taxation is so hideously
Mm.
complicated. But it's, I suppose I think that I almost think like everything in life, if you've done quite well for yourself and you have broader shoulders, then you should take on more of that burden. So as a theory, yes, I can see that it works. And I've actually thought before even about kind of means testing the state pension and how might that work, because at the moment there are some very, very wealthy pensioners that I'm sure would say we don't need the extra 9 grand or whatever it is, we've got however many millions in the bank, it's nothing to us. um, but at the same time, you can argue, well, to be fair, they did work for, I think, is it 35 years now you have to work to get full state pension? They did work for all that time. They did contribute everything, just like everybody else. So is it fair then to turn around and go, actually, no, sorry, you've got too much money to take this away?
Yeah.
And it's a very, I mean, there's a reason the Express runs all these articles. I mean, when I was googling, pension tax budget before this, because I don't actually write about pension tax anymore, but just because
Mm.
I've got a new job now and it's sort of less businessy focused in that way. um and it was just the Express running all of these kind of very speculative, very like
Yes.
scary, very like they're gonna take your pension benefits and they're gonna cut your triple log away. And it's because of who the Express's audience
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And everything is speculation. And the article that we're talking about in particular, I can tell you as a former pensions journalist, before the budget, we get hundreds of press releases that are from, they're from people that know what they're talking about. And sometimes they absolutely get the nail on the head when it
Mm.
comes to, I think this budget prediction is going to happen because the country needs this and all the rest of it. But in the last few years, they've pretty much always been wrong. There's always
Yeah.
been this question, are they going to raid the pension coffers? That seems to be the phrase that comes up year in, year out. And they actually haven't really for a number of years now. But I do think this probably is the year that something happens because of everything that's gone on, and we need to find a way to fund it,
Yeah.
basically. And pensions does seem kind of an obvious place to start.
Yeah, and I suppose while we're on fairness, I mean, the whole point of these lockdowns has been broadly to protect the lives of the older members of society. So whilst it's the working age population who have suffered in an economic sense because we've not been able to go out and work and offices and businesses are being closed, it is about protecting the oldest members of society, and a fatality rate goes up significantly once you get, I think, over age 70. And that's obviously why the vaccine rollout program started with the oldest first and is working its way back down again. So I think from a fairness perspective, it would be useful assuming that's affordable, to start with a taxation focused on the oldest members of society. I'm not sure they'll particularly like it. The thing to balance, of course, is older people tend to vote more than younger people do. So would it be a vote loser? Would a Conservative government, a Conservative Chancellor risk getting the rage of the pensioner vote? I don't know.
Well, this yeah, I mean, I was reading a similar thing about this, and not only do older people tend to vote more, but they also tend to vote conservative.
Mm.
But one of the kind of the logic behind one of what these commentators were saying was, well, we're a number of years out from an election. So you could almost kind of make some changes now and hope that they're forgotten about in time for the next election, or kind of tweak them so they look a bit more favorable again before the election, so you can try to deal with that problem. But I actually agree with everything you've just said. Young people, I mean, young people probably could have been pretty much fine to get on with their life for the last year, and understandably we haven't. It's important that we keep people alive, and it would be dreadful to write people off just because they're older. You can't do that. But now I think about it, maybe it's time to cough up some cash as a thank you.
It's like an early Christmas present. We'll see. We'll see what Rishi Sunak has to say. The other theory, of course, is that he'll have a second budget later in the year once we're out fully of the pandemic, and that's when he'll start to turn the screws and start to impose some really big tax rises. But we have to wait and see. It is all speculation. Something that the sort of pension geeks that I follow on Twitter seem to be saying is they're quite worried about the absence of much speculation from the Treasury contacts. So not what they normally see ahead of each budget is the Treasury floating different ideas, getting feedback, etc. It doesn't appear to be happening in respect to pensions this year, and that does add a bit of credence to the theory that they could actually have a bit of a raid on pension taxation in March. But we'll see. It's all speculation. Speculation's fun. I like speculation.